And we're live. This is Mahabali from Cairo, Egypt, for virtually connecting at the Amical conference in Greece. You guys on site introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Kristen Eshleman. I'm Director of Digital Innovation at Davidson College.
I teach journalism and mass communication at the American University in Cairo.
I'm Christine Bruce from Queensland University of Technology, and I'm professor in the science and STEM faculty. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as you know. With the jet lag, it's hard to remember. Hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Nadina Banmak, the on-site buddy for Virtually Connecting, and I work at the Center for Learning and Teaching at the American University in Cairo. And I do online content development, and I help faculty who are designing online and blended courses, educational technology, digital pedagogy. I'm very, very, very happy to be here with our on-site guests, and Kim, and Najla, who just joined us, who will now also, and Jerry, who are now also going to introduce themselves very quickly, please.
Okay, I'm Najla Jarkas. I work at the English department. I teach literature and writing in the disciplines courses, and I also integrate digital humanities projects in my classrooms. And next fall, I'm teaching the first Introduction to Digital Humanities course at the undergraduate level.
At the American University in Beirut.
And I co-organized the HIB 2017, and I love you, Mahat.
Yeah, she's right there. And this is Jeff. Yes, please go right ahead. Jeff, is this your first time virtually connecting with us?
Yes, this is my first.
Great. Welcome aboard.
There I am. Okay. So my name is Jeff Smith. I am on sabbatical here at Anatolia for a semester, and I'm in this specific conference to speak about copyright. Maybe wanted to speak about copyright. And I do have some expertise in that area, and I have a plan in which I can show in 4 quick steps exactly what you need to tell your professors regarding copyright.
Oh, I'm struggling to talk to them about Creative Commons. I don't want to talk to them about copyright. We can talk about that later. Let me give virtual folks an opportunity to introduce themselves. Maybe we can go in this order. Samantha, Tanya, Regina, Patrice, and Dana.
Hi, I'm Samantha Streamer-Veneruso. I'm a community college faculty member in Maryland in the United States. And I'm also struggling on Creative Commons, not so much copyright.
Hey, Samantha.
Actually, if I can speak up, I have to pick up my son at the airport. So is there anyone that wants to hear the 4 points that I want to share? Because I might speak about that and leave. Go ahead. Sorry, I have it, and I sent you an email. So basically, the thing to do to be aware of regarding copyright and teaching is to understand about fair use. There are 4 guidelines regarding fair use, and then the first is what is the purpose of what you're doing. Second is the nature of the work. Is it published or unpublished? Third is the amount that you use, the substantiality or the portion. And the third is, and maybe the most important, is the effect upon the market. And so basically, when you're talking about media and music, there are more restrictions. There's what's called the Mickey Mouse Law, and that Walt Disney was able to extend copyright significantly longer than it was in the past. And people get nervous about that. And it is true that there are more restrictions for using multimedia in your presentations. But in general, when you're talking about using the printed word, there are broad protections for academics in education. So as long as you're not making a profit by what you're doing, there's a fair amount of leeway in classrooms.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. We were in the middle of introductions, so I'm just gonna let people continue introducing themselves. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, okay.
Tanya?
Okay, thanks. Enjoy your conference.
Thank you. Tanya, it was your turn, right?
Yes. Tanya Shekhar. Tanya Shekhar from Melbourne, Australia. I'm teacher librarian in a selective boys school which goes from year 9 to year 12.
Okay, Regina.
Hi everyone, I'm Regina Gong. I work for a community college in Michigan. I am a librarian and I'm also the OER project manager for the college. So nice to see you all.
I like that we're all in the open spectrum, apart from one person. Patrice and then Dinah.
Good morning, Patrice Torsivia Prosco. It's 5:30 a.m. here in Ithaca, New York, and I'm an instructional designer at Cornell University. And I tried very hard to find my Thessaloniki mug this morning, but all I could find was New York City. So I have a very wide range of coffee mugs. And I used to teach at AUST and AUT in Beirut, but not, so I know a little bit. And I'm excited about this chatting with everyone this morning.
Dinah, could you unmute yourself? Dinah's in Ghana. I hope her connection is okay. She's been in and out. Actually, I'm not sure. She's frozen for me. Okay, let's start talking with the on-site folks, and if Dinah feels she can speak, she can unmute herself. So tell us, I watched a little bit of Kristen's keynote and a very small bit of Christine's keynote. And we have, having two keynotes with similar names is kind of complicated. Because we might, if the audio is not very clear, you won't be sure what we're talking about. But okay, wait. I think Dinah might be able to talk. I'll give her one more chance to try to introduce herself. No, Google's playing tricks with us these days. Okay, so tell us about how the conference has been so far. What you guys think are the highlights? What sense you were giving and how you felt about them. That's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Conference has been great. The representation has been amazing. And I think the combination, for me, the combination of people from such diverse regions, as well as the fact that most of these people get together regularly, is a fairly unique combination. I've attended conferences where people get together regularly from a single institution. I've attended conferences where the geographical diversity has been amazing. But you put the two together, and I think that this is a real place where transformation and change can happen, and the things that people are sharing and talking about has it's been inspiring. Yeah, and everything from archiving local history to augmented reality and everything in between.
Yeah, I'll bookend that really quickly as the other outsider who's come to the AMACOL conference. This is my first exposure to AMACOL. I'm really impressed. I'm a big fan of networks and working within networks that can help build capacity. And it's pretty clear that this group is really tight. They really respect each other. I mean, I think they love each other. It's a really great organization. And because of that, I think they're building capacity in interesting ways. We just attended a DH Insights panel that Kim was on, where they talked about all the ways that they're able to help each other's institutions, build sustaining plans for digital humanities, how to influence change and bringing more digital humanities faculty onto their campuses and so on. It's really an impressive group.
And now I can put that.
Yes, I loved connecting with, it's not the first time that I meet people from different disciplines or who work in different units. And as I was saying in my panel presentation, breaking those walls is very hard. But once you establish these personal connections through such meetings, through such conversations, those walls don't matter anymore. And you take risks and you're ready to, you have to be flexible so that you can gear your projects and learning outcomes in a way that satisfies everyone on the institutional level. And at the same time, you're having fun, because to me, digital humanities is all about having fun, experimenting. And then when you listen to fantastic keynotes, you say, okay, so they also went through they also, had to troubleshoot. They also had to find ways. And what's the most valuable thing is creating these networks and continuing conversations, either by email or through virtually connecting. I think is very, very important for any scholar, for any teacher. librarian and cross-board.
One thing I really actually appreciate about Amical and following up on what you guys were just saying is that the community, yes, we do attend these conferences, and yes, all of the talks are really, really interesting, but there are actual projects that come out of them, and everybody that gets involved in these conversations really does something to carry on, either carry on the conversations just simply for enrichment and mutual knowledge and education, but also sometimes for projects and materialized projects. And actually one of them was the one that Kim, Huda, and Maha and I are working on, the podcasting project, and maybe Kim, you can talk a little bit about that. And also Kim and Huda and myself, we were presenting it yesterday, but there's a session about the project that materialized out of the conversation that we had last year at the Amical conference. And also the DHIB Institute that was only 2 months ago, right now had a panel on all of the conversations that kept going on afterwards. And I think from the conversations that we had this conference after Christine and Kristen's keynotes, I feel like there's really good grounds for carrying out these projects and continuing these conversations. And that's a great community for that. So Kim, do you want to talk a little bit about the project?
I'll make it brief because I don't know if they have any questions for us on this side. It's an audio diaries project that we're sort of piloting at AUC. Hoda had one session of it last semester, and we'll continue by adding a few more sections, or at least the different courses that we hope will adopt this assignment in class, to get the stories from students, faculty, and staff about their day, and not just from a teaching perspective. So we're going to be producing audio, gathering natural sounds, writing scripts, and putting these short stories together to then donate to the university's digital archive.
Okay, do you virtual folks have any questions for our guests or general thoughts or additions? Please.
I think Sam had a question, I think probably for Christine, but I'm not sure. You want to go ahead, Sam?
Well, I was interested in hearing more about the conversations around archiving local history, although you just got me distracted on the narrative conversations too. So I'm interested in hearing more about either of those.
And they're both related, aren't they? Because the local history conversations are done through collective narrative. So this is a project that's actually happening at the Anatolia Library in partnership with the Anatolia Library. There's a faculty member who has set up the opportunity with some students in her area, and they've been very concerned about the loss of local memory. So talking about people who are elderly, about 70 years old and up probably, and the investment is being made in having conversations with all these people, getting to record their story. The project has quite a detailed listing of processes they had to go through to be able to establish it in such a way that it could continue and be sustainable. The library here is taking responsibility for managing the record and the preservation, although it's very uncertain what that will mean in the long term. She also, for me, was interesting to hear how the project impacted the people who were coming and having the conversations. So the conversations were held on the university campus, I think, on what I could see of the boardroom. And she was saying how for our older people, this was actually a very significant, important, momentous occasion for them. And they worked through somebody who was of that same age group, and who had come through. This is actually about the history of the Anatolia College, wasn't it? I'm just trying to remember the details as I go through.
Yeah, like the region
and athletic and the region. And this woman, they found that having this trusted friend in the conversation allowed her to open up the memories of the people who were participating. They didn't video. Video was too scary. So I think that things were orally recorded, and they got to work out how to manage that. If you're interested, I think you're from the United States. The University of Denver Library in Colorado Library did a similar project several years ago on their Hispanic community, and they actually got funding and they actually, I know about this one because they used an information literacy lens to develop the project, and they took the 7 phases of information literacy, and in the end they actually had the Hispanic people who were displaced peoples because they came to college, they built a university, and they displaced the Hispanic people, and through the project they preserved the memory, and they got the whole community involved. At the end of the project, the people were actually making videos to encourage their younger people to come to college.
So was this a you said one faculty member in the library was and also Kim, your conversation about the narrative project, was this 2 questions? Was this a like one faculty member, or was it an interdisciplinary kind of thing? And how are you using, or how are those things being used by other faculty in their classes, or have they become part of like open materials that people can then use in their instruction going forward?
I did go and talk to the people who are in charge of the ACT one, because we've been pretty far into a similar initiative at AUC, as we were documenting originally the revolution of 2011, which turned into the revolution of 2013, which turned into so we have been doing that as well. At ACT, I believe it's definitely students are involved in that project. I don't know if it's interdisciplinary, but I would assume that it is. From our perspective at AUC in the digital collection, again, we do have a system in place, which is great. That means we have a digital archivist, we have an online platform, so you can Google Egyptian Revolution 2011 AUC, and this portal will come up with the audio, some video, other artifacts and photos as well. We don't really know who's pulling that material out and using it in what way. So we haven't gotten that far. Now, on occasion, because I teach audio production and I do permit use of archival audio, or in some cases, sometimes the students will use photos and have someone describe them, or use archives from previous student newspapers. So sometimes my students do go into the archive, and as a part of the audio documentary project I have in class, they have to donate all of their raw interviews to the digital archive. So, you know, we're not quite sure on, again, who's using what's in there. But the material is there and available for people to listen to and to potentially reuse as well.
But Kim, I'm just going to say something quick. Like Kim, when we started this, we thought we'd start with a pilot with this class, who's my co-teacher. And then in other semesters, I think Kim is going to try it in one of her classes. I'm going to try it in one of my classes. And then hopefully have more faculty and more students beyond just us who got the grant and started it. We don't have an exact plan, but that was sort of what we were trying to, and beyond AUC even.
I'll just make one note about the oral histories, because usually oral history projects do go after an elderly population that might die soon, which is what we do at AUC as well. We try to get a variety of people, but the audio diaries is specifically going after the young people who we have access to right now. And so we're trying to document both their life on campus and off campus to sort of complement what we already might get from other sources in terms of oral histories.
Do you have an app or something that they use to do the journaling?
No, we don't have an app. We're currently looking at a couple of applications that we can use that already exist, not one that we've developed.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that because I went to that session and it was really, really good. The thing that most impressed me about it was, maybe you could probably plug this in. The thing that impressed me the most about what Kim is doing was the process. I'm so used to working with multimedia projects that are very scripted, very highly produced, and so everything's planned ahead of time and then put together with your B-roll and all that stuff. And her process is this very emergent process. It's just capture what you're doing, be present in the moment, and then see what stories emerge. And I think that's such an outstanding way to think about just reflecting on your college experience in general. So to be doing it in that medium in that way, it's super impressive.
And it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Again, I'm teaching an audio class. Maha is teaching different classes, and Nicole is teaching different classes too. So we do like the fact that we're creating a template that is interdisciplinary, that any class should be able to plug this in some way to help build the archive.
So the other question I had was how you guys, or what you guys had thought about in terms of licensing the materials. I think Regina and I think all of us are working in the open space a lot. And I know for me, as I teach an open literature course in the fall, I'm running into problems of not having current stuff, not being able to use a lot of current stuff because of the licensing that's on it, which is fine. I'm working around that. But as I think about materials to be able to bring in that question of licensing, and I know there's a lot of balance there. I appreciate that issue of, people's privacy, maybe they don't want to be on camera or that kind of thing. So I just wondered how you guys were addressing licensing, or had you even thought about it?
Oh, I know. I've been doing this for a long time, so we definitely need. And again, I'm working with the ABC, American and Digital Archivists. We have the students get the talent release forms, sometimes get an oral agreement as well.
Yeah.
And students produce their audio work. They post it online with a Creative Commons license.
And because Kim had been doing this for a while, working with the archivists at the library for a while, she was familiar with the process, and using her expertise with projects like these, we were able to follow through with with her design of the whole project, basically. And then also what came out of that was that they designed a template, or we designed a template for the project to carry on, and whoever is going to carry on this project, either at AAC or the overall AMCAL community, is that they can use that template for the assignment design. So things like just like a prompt, basically, that you can sort of incorporate in your class and contextualize it for your own subject. And then later on, there are like do's and don'ts and things like a technical tutorial that I put together just very quickly for them to be able to use the audio editing software. And then also like a technical do's and don'ts list, things for students who have not really done this sort of thing before, to be able to take that and move forward. So it's all basically there. So that this is the flow or the model that we're working with, using expertise and things that are already there and carrying them.
I was going to ask if Kristen could share a little bit about what she talked about in her talk. To switch gears just a little bit.
Sure. So you know my spiel probably, Patrice. I mostly talked about how we could partner better as technologists and information specialists, librarians, information literacy librarians in particular, but really anybody, in the context of institutional change. And it was really, I was trying to frame the change pressures that are coming to higher education, creating that degree of uncertainty that we have to deal with. Those are driven largely by technology and by the explosion and democratization of information. So it really, to me, it stands to reason that we be leading that at our institutions. And I think there's a strength in numbers. I think many institutions look to IT because they connect the dots with technology pretty quickly. They know this is a digital campus issue. But they're not connecting the dots as easily, I think, to the issues around information and information literacy. And so that's what I was talking about. How can we partner better, strengthen numbers, and really insist on leading change at our institutions? And the kinds of change that I was talking about are changes that are incremental that we're starting to address, moving our roles more into education researchers and away from the service focus of what we do, to get us more embedded with teaching and learning and more intellectual partnerships with faculty. And doing that through faculty development as well. So new models that Sunday Richard is bringing to Davidson, which I'm very excited about. And then the bigger, more than incremental change, really pushing against the institutions, against the constraints and the structures and the value assumptions that we have, start testing those in ways that engage us in the kind of disruption that we're going to be facing. Disruption, how do we learn from disruption, and how does that make our institutions really more, I like the anti-fragile word, but make our institutions strong and ready.
One of the things you mentioned, I think it was in the Q&A part, Kristen, was about how the institutional research folks didn't really understand what you guys were doing with the SenseMaker. And also, I didn't actually realize that you were part of the IT. I've known you for quite some time, and I didn't realize you were coming from an IT angle at all of this. I thought you were your own center, which is I don't know what, but I didn't think that you were coming from the IT side. So could you tell us a little bit more about how that? I mean, like, who gets involved? Like, do you have social scientists involved with IT people, with the students, or maybe you talked about it in the keynote, but I missed it because my daughter was waking up while you were in the keynote.
Is your question about social scientists?
And like how the institutional research didn't understand what you guys were doing. Like, I don't know who's involved in what you're doing.
Yeah, so it is sort of the center of Kristen, I think. Yeah, I am sort of pushing these things without a lot of permission, but that's okay. And we'll ask for forgiveness later. Yeah, I did put it in front of our institutional research group, and there was just a lot of skepticism. They're they're traditional researchers, and it's a method that's not traditional. It's really a method that hasn't been tested or validated in higher education. It's been used in industry and other ways of doing decision making with a lot of good, effective results. Samantha knows, Patrice knows about this, but it hasn't been used in our context, and so it got met with that kind of, I don't know about this. So we're just moving forward with our own studies, just kind of plowing ahead. And I figure the best way I can make the case for pushing this more broadly is to just bring data and show the value of this.
I mean, who cares about validation? But
yeah, I mean, I do have faculty that are working with me. So the person who's leading the assessment process around our accreditation work is very interested in this. She and I could have authored something for everyone around this. So she's involved, and our Associate Dean for Teaching, Learning, and Research is very interested in adding that data layer on top of the course-related data that we're already collecting. So it's not like it's a complete island. And the students love it. I mean, that's been the most successful thing in all this, is they see this as a voice, an empowering voice in front of the administration and to impact change. And so that's been really positive in getting this to be hopefully adopted more broadly in the future. Okay.
I like that. No, that's great, because you sort of answered a little bit of my question. The question that follows up on what you guys were just talking about, based on the model that Cindy worked on, and based on you sort of pushing and trying to help these changes go about and going bottom up, and faculty are also in on that, and then they help with these projects and these initiatives. How can people like staff, IT, people like instructional designers that are working on these courses and working on educational technology generally, how can they also be part, or an important part of building that and pushing that? And so these, what's it called, digitins is a model of that, but how can other people little and also effective lead to that change as well?
Yeah.
Lead to that change as well.
Yeah, I should probably clarify that when we get these proposals, we're getting the proposals. I'm just facilitating. So the ideas are not coming from me or anyone else. They're coming directly from faculty, students, and alumni. Staff are open to pitch proposals. The problem that we have with it right now is we need to be credits. So we've got to have a faculty member willing to be involved at some level. So if staff want to pitch an idea, they just need to kind of team up, like, and grab Kim, and we're going to go together with a proposal. And we did do that around urban education. So there are opportunities to get into the design thinking part, where for those of you who didn't hear the keynote. We take them through a design thinking process. We have them answer a very basic question and tell a story without assuming any solution. And then in the design thinking process, we dig a little bit deeper to figure out what the real problem is we're trying to solve. During that process, there's librarians, technologists, we invite a lot of people to be part of that brainstorm. That's a bit. Thank you. I hope that answered it, Patrice. She is there.
Okay, this is really interesting. We're all really enjoying it, but if virtual folks want to ask another question before we have to get to lunch, because lunch is in 5 minutes and we don't want to, nobody wants to miss it and we don't want our guests to miss it either. So can you let us know if anybody has another pressing question?
I actually just have a comment. As a librarian, I'm really heartened to learn that you are collaborating with librarians in your institution, especially in your archiving project. Libraries and librarians really have a lot to offer. So I hope in your projects, you keep them involved, because they can help with the preservation, making sure that it's discoverable, the metadata and all that, and also with awareness and education. So I'm really glad to hear of the strong collaboration that you have with libraries. So
You really got to come to an MCAL conference. You'll love that. You'll see a lot of that. I have a question for the on-site folks. How good is the food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
But we can't use the swimming pool. Because you have to come early.
Swimming pool?
when we're done today, maybe.
Right, our concern is we can't use the pool because we're here.
I think we'll all be in it this afternoon at the same time.
Did you want to say anything?
No, I just, I really think librarians should be empowered, and I think that they're so valuable to us. The only problem, and I said this before, is that they have to answer to their boss, and so we're like working together and collaborating on something, and sometimes I'm threatened by them leaving me because they have to do other things, like they can't really follow up on everything I need for my classroom. And therefore, whenever I want to design a project, I have to know that I can also do it. And those conversations that I have outside the classroom with the librarians are so, so valuable. And I really want to just say that I really appreciate all your, endeavor to help us. And thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right.
Tanya has one question. And Nadine, can you just wait after we finish? But Tanya has a question.
Okay.
She did say she had a question. Maybe she's having trouble unmuting because we can't see her. Tanya, we can't hear you. Unmute, please.
I forgot to unmute. Okay. As a teacher librarian at as a secondary school, our role is really diverse. What do you all think is the most important thing that a teacher librarian can do in order to empower our students who are largely going into university, into higher education? Bearing in mind that we have still a very traditional system that's based on the teaching of content and not so much the teaching of skills. So slipping in things like teaching ethical reuse of images and things like that barely gets any recognition. So you have to sort of sneak it in.
I think the most important thing you can do is make your libraries the most innovative spaces that you possibly can. Creative spaces, and I visited a school library in Brisbane recently, a primary school library, and it had the most amazing maker spaces in it. And this, the kids were
doing everything from playing with Lego because they were 5 years old to learning robotics, and it was all going on in this makerspace. And I was actually at a book launch for a children's book, and the questions that the students were asking were amazing. Yeah, so these kids were like 10 years old. So I think exposing them to change, exposing them to wider information environments, and encouraging teachers to think about the information experiences that go alongside the content learning experiences.
It's challenging because the teachers are so busy teaching curriculum.
It's a tall ask. I'm trying to remember. Anne Wiskin, do you know Anne Wiskin?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Anne Wiskin is a teacher librarian who has been doing some of these things, so she's been focusing on staff development of her teachers. Great.
Yes, she's great. Thank you.
We have to let you guys go as much as we enjoyed this conversation, but we have to let you go.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you to Kristen and Christine and Nesna for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the broadcast now because I just need to talk to Nadine offline for a second. Okay, thank you, everyone, for joining us.